more round of applause for U-Zyn, second time in a row here. I know we're ready for him again. One more. Come on, there we go. Thank you. A real Bitcoin OG, who I'm happy to meet in person for the first time. And Robin, hey Robin. All right, everybody. More kind of.
How you doing?
Can we have it on the screen as well so we can see the panel, if it's possible? Otherwise.
Yeah, the face of God back there.
Yeah. Turn around.
So we. There we go. So we've had a lot of really interesting discussion today, sort of on the existential nature of ordinals for Bitcoin. Marketplaces, kind of a bullish view of marketplaces moving forward in terms of features and volume. And so now to kind of the nuts and bolts of what's going to enable that bullish future. We'll get right into it with some introductions of each of you. We'll start at the end here. If you want to just introduce yourself and your company just a little bit to start. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael from Asterisk. We're building Wizz Wallet. I'm the CTO of Wizz Wallet. So we are new, kind of challenging everyone for the big guys. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fisher Yu. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Babylon. Babylon's vision is to scale Bitcoin and secure the decentralized world. And we are currently building a BTC staking protocol, which allows Bitcoin holders to earn altcoin as yield without giving you Bitcoin to any third-party custodian. Thank you.
Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin, the CEO and co-founder of Liquidium. And we're building an ordinal lending platform where you can use your ordinals as collateral and borrow native Bitcoin against it. So kind of bringing NFTFi to ordinals.
Yeah, I'm U-Zyn, CTO, lead researcher for Ordzaar. I've been a Bitcoiner through and through from 2009, so I'm here to try to contribute back to the space again to make building on ordinals and building on Bitcoin easy again.
Thanks. And I'm John with Bitcoin, BTC Inc. We do Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin Conference and have a fund investing in the ecosystem. So to kind of kick things off, a bit of an overview. What is the role of Toolkits, SDKs, and Standards in Ordinals? U-Zyn, we'll start with you here.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So if you've been on my keynote just now, I'm going to reiterate that again. I think it's super important, especially in the space for ordinals, where we have right now, we're building on a social consensus space where the Bitcoin miners are mining only for Bitcoin consensus transactions, sending of monies and verifying is it a valid wallet spend or not, and doesn't really care about the ordinals, what's going on there, even if it's an invalid transaction, invalid inscriptions or whatever, it will still go through. And then we have the BRC-20 on top of that as well. So all these things are making it quite hard for developers like you and me and like us to build on that. So what it's super important, especially in this space, that we want to have more SDKs, we want to have more toolkits to make it easier to build on top of Bitcoin. So if we have a solid SDKs and standards, let's say on BRC-20, like the future developers that want to build on BRC-20 do not even have to worry about how to parse ordinals, how does Bitcoin transaction, how to do PSBTs and all that stuff. So you just have to care about how much token does this address has? Is this a valid BRC-20 transaction? And you basically just send BRC-20 token from one address to the other. And that's how it should be. And this is how, like on my last slide, on my last keynote, where this is how the whole network layer was laid out, right? The bottom layer is where the electricity was going through, like the copper wire and all of that. And then middle layer, we have UDP, TCP, where like the bottom layer doesn't care about what's above that, like doesn't care about UDP and all of that. And then UDP layer, the transport layer, only cares about that. Is it a valid packet or not? So it passes along or not? And then it doesn't care about is it a valid authenticated HTTP transaction? And then we have HTTP layer, which is the application layer. And now we have Bitcoin layer on that layer. So Bitcoin miners just have to care about whether is it a valid Bitcoin transactions. And all these layers are, today, if you're a web developer, you only care about the application layer. You don't care about how the wire transmit data, how your TCP's packet are being constructed. So we're trying to move into that role now for ordinals and BRC-20 and all of that layers that are built on top of Bitcoin. We need SDKs to make it easy and make it a standard where it's no longer a social consensus, it's actually a hard consensus that is it a valid BRC-20 transaction. It's a easy Boolean. Is it true or false, even though it's a valid Bitcoin transaction, but is it a valid BRC-20 transaction? So once we have all of that, it will make it a whole lot easier to build on this space.
Thanks. Great overview. Anyone else want to touch on that? Perfect. So want to get into kind of some of what your companies are doing specifically to kind of expand what's possible, use cases in the space with that context. Robin, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I can talk a little bit about this story, like how we used, I think APIs are a good example here. So back when we started in like early February of this year, building on Ordinals was quite a challenge because you didn't have like any APIs, SDKs or whatnot. So essentially the only wallet that was compatible of doing anything with Ordinals was Sparrow Wallet, was only I think the only wallet that I knew that was capable of like signing PSPTs. And you didn't have any sort of marketplaces or data. You just had like Google spreadsheets where you saw like floor prices of collections and whatnot. So pretty sandboxy times. And I think looking at, like back then we thought, oh no, we have to build everything ourselves. Like we have to create the wallet, we have to create all of the PSPT functionality, all of the DLC functionality, the Oracle, and everything. But it turned out that so many people started working early on these like critical infrastructure pieces. So experts came up with Set Connect, where you could just like easily with a couple of lines of code integrate the wallet connect to experts. Then marketplaces came around where they also built APIs where you could get like things like floor price data and trading volume and stuff like that. Which was really useful for us. So as you know, like we are doing ordinal lending, so we kind of have to see what is the value of an ordinal, or at least the user has to see what is the value of the ordinal to make a decision of if they want to lend Bitcoin to this ordinal. So this was critical for us. And also, Deeplay is a company that is working on DLCs. There's also DLC Link, so two companies that are basically working on core infrastructure for Bitcoin, where you can just have smarter capabilities on Bitcoin. They are also doing APIs that you can plug into like your applications. So now, a couple months later, we basically use like 5 APIs, and even working on our own API where we give marketplaces and wallets and so on an API where they can have like an instant borrowing functionality. So, for example, you could go to experts and borrow right within the experts app against your ordinals. Same thing on Magic Eden, and I'm happy to see like I'm looking forward to what people will build with these APIs. So, for example, one thing that someone came up with is down payments. So you could use instant loans to create down payments and stuff like that. I think there are a lot of creative ways of like how you can use the APIs. But yeah, seeing that is really cool.
Yeah, good stuff. Want to give everybody a chance to get to this one. Michael, if you want to touch on this.
I think SDK, APIs, toolkits are the language of softwares, because when we talk to each other, like we're talking English, maybe Mandarin or something language, it get easier for getting to know new people, but software kind of different. Before Ordinals, I think Bitcoin is a bit boring for me. We kind of experience other ecosystem like Ethereum or other ecosystem. They have more APIs, more SDKs we can use and build cool stuff. But after that, we found that Ordinal coming up and the hype's going and everyone will have a new Bitcoin generation will come in and see what's the cool things to build. So there are new SDKs coming out. If you remember, like earlier this year, when BRC-20 is coming up, And sorry, and Unisat instantly promote their marketplace and instantly support the standards, and Ordinal market changes. So when the new standard coming up, and when people speak the new language, and they may see the new consensus and connect to each other. So I think SDKs is like software and ecosystem language to all the people. Yeah.
Fisher, you want to hit on this at all?
Yeah, sure. So I can give my personal experience on this topic. So Babylon's technology really builds on a cryptographic property of Schnorr signature, which is supported by BTC. So when we try to build our application, our developers will kind of fingers crossed to wish that, we wish there is a JavaScript library that supports Schnorr signature. And luckily, we found one, which is the Bitcoin JavaScript library, which is very happy. But sadly, that's the only reliable one that we found. So we have to use it. So yeah, that's a bit of both like lucky and unlucky for us. So yeah, we are fully supportive of growing the Toolkit SDK of the Bitcoin community.
Easy.
Maybe I'll add something. With the proper toolkits and SDKs, for those who are working in the space, it's gonna free up your mind space to be able to think a step further, because you don't have to just like Fisher just said, you don't have to worry about the base layer. You just build on top of that. So I think like a year from now, when we all sit here, we're gonna be talking about BRC-20 just like what we talk about ERC-20. It's gonna be a standard. We will have DEX that's working. That right now it's such a pain to build on BRC-20 because you have to parse all that stuff. But 1 year from now, I'm pretty sure it will be a standard that we're just gonna be talking just like ERC-20. How much like token that you have, we can just transact. We can have a wallet. They can just send token right to each other, and then the next layer then starts. So what do we do after now? The token layer is now a standard, and we have tools around that. So what do we do next? Do we do DEX? Do we do like lending, for instance, like Liquidium, or do we do something more beyond that? So all these things is built on top of that. So this is why I really think that like SDKs are going to be really help to expand a lot more in the space. And the space is actually very limitless, because it's unlike Ethereum, where you have a base, like a train complete sets that you have to work with. On Bitcoin, it's social consensus in a good way as well, because it defines what we all collectively wants to do. If you want to do this, and it will, some people might not agree with it, we'll do something else, but eventually it will build a crowd around some of these things that sticks, and then we'll build on top of that. So basically, we define a virtual machine that we all collectively kind of define, social virtual machine, to call it that.
Nice. So kind of from each of you, maybe a little bit of, we're still early, right? And what's possible is still being built. So kind of current challenges with maybe a lack of toolkits out there now. How do we increase the availability of developer tooling, developer tools? What's kind of the game plan there? What's important and to be thinking about for that? Maybe come back to Fisher for this.
Yeah, sure. So I would like to start by asking ourselves the question, why there are not many toolkits out there right now? Because to me, I think it is because everyone has a stereotype that Bitcoin is so dumb. Doesn't have smart contract, it's very slow, you can't do anything. So if people want to build something that attract adoption, they go to Ethereum or other smart contract-based blockchains. But indeed, Bitcoin script is not that dumb. Okay? Ordinals prove that, or Babylon also proved that. So indeed, sometimes simple or less is actually more. So Bitcoin script is super robust, unlike Solidity, which has a lot of problems. Yeah, or whatever built on top of Bitcoin, it's super solid. So I think as a whole, like everyone here, I think we should work together to educate the developer community and end user community that Bitcoin is actually quite capable of doing many remarkable things. So we should encourage people to know better about Bitcoin and join it. Then we will see more like toolkits and SDKs will merge.
Yeah, love that. Just education that Bitcoin, maybe isn't being fully explored by certain communities right now. Robin, also wanted to come to you for this one. Maybe touch on kind of the importance of open source here too.
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that could be really useful or that we should kind of leverage is like open source in critical infrastructure and APIs and stuff like that. And also create like robust documentation there. Just because you don't want the people to use like redundant code. So you kind of want to decrease the redundancy and just like give people some, I guess, some example to work with. And also, I think in general, the Bitcoin community has to stay as open as it is right now. And I feel like it is really open. Everybody is like willing to help each other, but also obviously the whole nature of it is open source and whatnot. So yeah, I think just in general, try to open source as much critical infrastructure as possible so other people can build on it and we can naturally create competition, because only if we have competition in certain aspects, in certain contexts, we can leverage this competition to basically like move faster, build more, build it better.
Yeah. Competition, probably the best forcing function there. Michael, you want to hit on this at all too?
I think open source is kind of important because only open source can allow you to learn from other people. Actually, we learn from very well-made wallets in this space, Sparrow, Unisat, and Xworks. We learn a lot from you. And we build our own. So yeah, that's kind of very, very important. And then we will open source our stuff, and everybody can look at our code and try to build there. And we also make new infrastructure for dApps, like recursive ordinals, and also important like entertainment apps. So we kind of like keep the open source spirits all the way.
Nice.
Maybe add a couple of things. I think open source is such a building block for the whole Bitcoin movement. In fact, the whole software world, like open source really changed the whole software world. Like probably before 90s or before 2000, like if you're in a corporate, like if you need a database, you're gonna go for like Oracle, you're gonna go for like some Microsoft solutions or some closed source solutions out there. But today, if you go with those, like either you have too much money, you don't know what to do with it, or you don't understand how the whole thing works, or just because you want to save your ass, because if you go for open source, your boss might say, why do you go for open source? But the reality is that the open source software is now so much more performant, so much better built, and so much more being reviewed by everyone else, so much more secure than everyone else, than all the closed source systems out there. So a lot of corporate software now today are actually run on open source system. So is Bitcoin, and so is all these things that are built on top of that. So which is why all this evolution is going to come on Bitcoin side. Should maintain the spirit to keep things open, and that's what we do at Ordzaar. We build. It's hard to build right now. Like for those who are building the space, I applaud every one of you. It's really hard to build, and we all love that grind, that pain a little bit. But help to save some for a future that future developers that come on board to Bitcoin, so they don't have to do that anymore, and they can do things that are on top of that. So if we do something, we have libraries or whatever, open source them. So we're doing that with OIPs, we're doing that with Sado, we're going to open source them, and going to do not just open source, but also educate people on how to build, talk about it, and just get more people on board. So try to talk about Bitcoin, try to talk about Ordinals. Yeah, that's the spirit.
That's the spirit. The grind and the pain of building. I like the what it takes to be doing Satoshi's work here. Building. Moving forward and talking about kind of what's needed for more building. Michael, I'm going to come back to you here. How can we kind of lower the barriers of entry to attracting new developers into Bitcoin, back to Bitcoin? New good toolkits, SDKs. Michael.
Yeah, building good SDKs are important. I think we should keep in mind that we are not building for ourselves because we are building for others. That's the one primary open source spirit. So we're building something we can use and other people can use, and we can build something that other people can understand. That's the most important thing we should learn. So build in public, we use all the famous big company and individuals work, and we utilize that, and we offer our understanding to give other people to look at the code and you really use in production. I think that's the second one. Really using in production. If the code, if the tools cannot be used in production, that would be not proven anything. So you better find a use case or find a new usage for people, and then prove that okay, your tools is very very good at some point. So I think that's the thing to lower the barrier. And then I think another one is that the use cases can allow people to get to know the tools, get to know the benefits of this ecosystem. I think Ordinals itself is the good example. It really attracting users getting into this new ecosystem. I think there are more people were not from Bitcoin. They are from like Solana, whatever ecosystem they were, even for Web 2. They just see, okay, that's a hype. There's a chance to see what's the momentum of the Bitcoin, so get in. The tools are also there. When we were not building things on Bitcoin, we're building things on Ethereum and other ecosystem, and we see how do we find a chance, how do we find the opportunity to build something for the ecosystem, for Bitcoin ecosystem, for new developers. So that's, I think, that for the newcomers, and we've always built for others.
Yeah. Anybody else want to hit on this? Attracting new developers? No? All right. So what's next? We've kind of laid sort of a foundation of how we're thinking about this. Now to kind of a bigger picture, longer term. I want to hear from y'all. What's next for developers in the Ordinal space? What are you excited about? Either specifically with what you're building internally, or more broadly, what you're excited to see and use in terms of other products and tools. Start here with this one.
Right. Thanks. What's Ordinals, I think for me personally, that's a Bitcoiner for over like 13 years or something. It's like for the first time I see a catalyst in bringing this whole developers back into the mother chain again, if I would. I mean, yeah.
The mother chain, I like it.
Yes. Well, some people call it luxury chain. Like we have been building on Bitcoin since a long time, and it was hard. It wasn't just building around it, just doing money stuff around that. And then once Ethereum came around, we want to flock over to Ethereum because it's a lot more ecosystem, a lot more fun going around. It's so much easier. And for the first time, I'm seeing so many developers coming back to Ordinals right now. It's still hard. It's still really hard to build. But it's a catalyst to get people to come back to Bitcoin again. And once all these are defined, once you have a proper foundation on how to build things, I'm pretty sure like in 3 months from now, everything's going to be different. And in 1 year from now, we might even be looking something like, I know, like Ethereum, like 2 years back, or something where we have tokens, we have DEX, we have like inscriptions that we could trade freely, and some utilities around inscriptions, some standards around how you can add utility on inscriptions and all that stuff. So pretty sure, like over the next 3 to 6 months, we will have all of that, and then we will have a lot more great things to come. And that's the spirit of Bitcoin. That's the spirit of Ordinals. It's just gonna be super fun with developers coming back.
Gonna be fun. Robin, come to you next.
Yeah. So what I would like to see, and I think we touched on this already, is just like integrating Ordinals more into existing Bitcoin libraries like Bitcoin.js. I think this would be huge. And also things that we as a platform would love to see is like more trustless oracles. I know there is nothing like a trustless oracle. Maybe you can use some sort of like an ordinal standard or something to make it trust minimized in a way. But yeah, I think ordinals, oracles are a big thing for Bitcoin because you don't have smart contracts and so on. And if you want to create like if conditions, I think if you want to take on-chain data as an input, then you would want an oracle that is as trust minimized as possible. So yeah, that would be huge. And also, I think maybe come up with more fungible token standards that maybe also are suitable with like building a stable coin or something like that. I think this would bring a lot of institutional money in the space and also like give more incentive to builders again because more money is in the space and so on. So yeah, definitely we're still early. There's so much that we can build and improve. So really excited for what the people are coming up with.
It's exciting. Fisher, Michael, maybe kind of quick answers here from y'all on this one.
Yeah, so I would like to see happen next is more standards in our space because standards really help us to form a united and integrated ecosystem rather than fragmentation. This is very important in order for the Bitcoin like ordinal community to compete with other bigger communities and also create constructive competition that will help the ecosystem to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize that I think there are more momentum and creative in ordinals. It's been seen like in June, we see recursive in ordinals. Even now it's a bear market, but I think I know some guys are building recursive protocols, something like that. I think it's pretty good, and I think the creative would drive us all the way down.
Yeah, great example of some creativity already, and you know, who knows what's to come. All right, thanks everybody. Great panel, and
Thank you.
we'll leave you to the next one.
Thank you.